Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. Today, I have an awesome guest. He's an investor, advisor, serial entrepreneur, podcast host, 2020 AFR Fast Starter, 2019 Deloitte Fast 50, 2018 Best Social Media Agency, multiple agency owner and co-founder of Claxon. Claxon is a multi-award-winning digital growth agency that delivers revenue growth for your brand through digital channels, including a relentlessly driven pursuit of innovation and success. He helps business owners grow and scale their business. Welcome, Brett Campbell, and thank you for being on my show.
Mate, thank you for having me. Love the energy straight out the gate. It was like I was at the Melbourne Cup there. It was good. Mate, one thing to add to that, though, that we missed, probably my biggest achievement to date out of all, brand new father. I got a 4-week-old baby. So my greatest achievement to date. So had to throw that one in there.
Love it, mate. And I love bringing the energy to the start. And yes, congrats for being a brand new father, the first one. I'm not there yet. I plan to be there soon, but I'm sure it's amazing. So congrats. And now it's getting back into it again. There's always, life doesn't stop. We need to keep going. So let's make that happen. But I'm sure it's going to be an amazing show for everybody watching and listening today. So you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Yeah, right. So, mate, I could take 3 days to share the journey. I could take 3 minutes. So I'll try and give you the real big snapshot, and you feel free to dig in wherever you want. But I'll outline a couple of, I think, key important things, which will really, I guess, give people a perspective of the type of person that I really am. And because on the outside, for people who do know me, they're like, "Wow, you've achieved so much." But it's like, yeah, if you knew me, you'd know the hurdles and so forth that I've gone through that have shaped me, right? And that's the key thing. It's what shaped me along the way, and that's what I love to look at. Other successful people and people that I admire, and I go, what shaped them along their journey, right? And those are the things that I think are really exciting versus what's the actual achievement that they made. It's like what shaped them. So for me, mate, I'll start when I was 4 years old. I was and I'm not going to give you the 3-day version, but I was 4 years old, and I was outside. I was living in a caravan park at the time with my sister, my mother and father, and I was outside playing, loving life from what I remember. Sunny day, and I hear my name being yelled out, and I was like, Brett, and I was like, oh no, because I was a little mischievous kid, right? And I was always getting in trouble for doing something. And it was my mum yelling out my name, and I ran into the caravan. I stick my head through the caravan door, and she's like, run across the road and get some help. And I'm like, what? And what I was witnessing was my father had his hands on my mother, and he was about to throw her through the caravan window, right? It was 10 a.m. in the morning, and he'd just gotten back from the pub, right? And he was about to hurt my mum. And that was the last memory that I had of my father. Shortly after that, my mother and my sister, we jumped on an airplane and we moved to New Zealand, where I grew up. Really small town, couple of thousand people. And from that very, very early age, I remember, and throughout my entire childhood and development of, the man that I am today, I took it upon myself that I had this desire that I'll be the man of the family. I'll be the man of the family that looks after my mum and my sister. And as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, you don't know what that even means, right? I had no male role models around me, so I sort of had to try and figure this thing out myself, and trying to also figure out who the heck I was, right? So I grew up. I knew I was different to all my mates. I was entrepreneurial from the get-go. I was always looking for jobs to do because I always wanted to earn money because I wanted stuff, right? That's what I figured out. I was like, if I want something, because I didn't come from a family where my mum could give me anything, it was like she put the hot meals on our table, she gave us the clothes on our back, and that was the extent of it, right? Because that's all she could provide. Anything else outside of that, I was like, why does my mate have a cool school bag? Why does my mate get to go do this or have this or get the luxuries, so to speak, from what I was witnessing? And it embedded in me very early that, if I wanted anything, I had to go out there and get it, right? And with that being the reality, I realized I was very different. And I was what I call a trapped entrepreneur, because I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I was literally that kid that would want to walk around to houses and knock on people's door and go, hey, what do you do? Because I like their house and I want a house like that. I was like, what do you do? So I was trying to figure out what should I do in life, because I was like, how do they get that nice car when we had a shitty beaten up Toyota Hi-Ace van that we were driving around, right? So I got kicked out of high school for talking too much, which is quite ironic. I get now paid to speak, but I fell into what you'd call an apprenticeship over in New Zealand. So, well, they've still got apprenticeships now, but I fell into an apprenticeship. That was the only job offering around. I got kicked out of school. My mum says you have to find a job. I knew from day one that wasn't the thing that I was meant to do. Right. I knew that it was not what I was meant to do, but I stuck at it. I stayed at it for 4 years too long, until such time the pain got big enough for me that it caused me to take a massive shift in life. And I moved. I had my suitcase and my golf clubs, and I moved to Surfers Paradise in the Gold Coast after I had a holiday here, and I was like, I'm moving back to this place. And I moved over here in 2008 to start what I would call my new life. I had no idea what I was going to do. I went into the fitness space because I loved working out at the time, became a fitness trainer, which then that gave me the taste of entrepreneurship. And I was like, I'm someone who can never settle for something. Like, I don't like status quo. I believe if you can have the Lamborghini, why would you not work towards the Lamborghini if you want it, right? I also believe that would you rather fly business class everywhere or normal? Well, for me, I'd rather fly business class. Why would I not want to? But then I just have to figure, and it's not because I'm trying to be greedy. It's like, but if there's something better on offer, why would I not aspire to want to work towards that? So that was always within me. And, I wasn't satisfied with a personal trainer role. Again, I was earning about $80, $100 an hour cash, which was cool. Earning about $3-4 grand cash a week in my back pocket, which was, for me as an apprentice, I was earning $800 a week. Sorry, as a tradesman in my apprenticeship, I was earning $800 a week. So it was a massive change. But as I grew, my financial mindset grew. And when I got to something that I thought I'd never earn, I was like, oh, I want more now. How can I do this? How can I build? How can I grow? And, I got into then leveraging my time and build a team of trainers. Then I built the fastest growing fitness franchise in the country back in 2011, 12, built a fitness college. First person actually in Australia to do a 6-figure online fitness launch, which was exciting. That was before like everyone was doing it. So I cut my teeth in the fitness world, but ultimately what I did was I took something that we all have available to us right now, which is that of social media. And I really harnessed the ability, how do I use this to actually grow and scale multiple companies? So, fast forward to today, I'm currently essentially an advisor to my own company. I built the company to a point where it doesn't need me anymore, which is, an exciting place to be. And now I can work on my next chapter of life, which is being the best father I can be.
Love it, mate. Such an amazing story there. And I can see some similarities with me getting out of school as well, and my parents telling me to get a job. It's interesting, but you know what? It shapes us, and so many amazing achievements along the way of you had those realizations. I guess you just didn't settle, right? You just go, you know what? I want these better things. I want a better life. How can I get that? And you went out there and took that action. So that's awesome.
I frame it like I'm the most impatient human being I know, right? And it's hard to wrap your head around that because it's, it's sort of the polar opposites. But I was very impatient growing up. Like, I hated lines. I still hate lines. I hate lining up. Again, I'm like, if there's a fast pass line, why would I not pay a little bit extra to get that? To me, it doesn't make sense how someone would not want to do that. Now, that's not to say someone should have to do that, but in my brain, that's how it works. It's like, is there a faster route? Is there a way to get here faster? And not to the detriment of the journey itself, right? So I guess another way to frame it is, I certainly will, in many cases, I'll shoot first and then I might aim, right? But I've become a lot better at the time gap in between shooting and aiming, if that makes sense. It's very intuitively led now, and that's how I like to grow and scale my life, my businesses, my friendships, everything. It's all run through a specific lens.
Yeah. I love that. Really powerful. And yeah, completely agree. Like tapping into our intuition or our gut feeling, as people talk about it, is extremely important. Because that's that bit where, it feels right. Or maybe it's someone that you're doing business with, it doesn't feel right as well. And you're like, oh, there's something about this person that, you know what I mean? So it's to use for decisions, but it's also to warn you of situations too.
Yeah, the ability to be able to make decisions quickly is, oh man, it's been profound for me. Right now, that's not to say every decision I make is the exact best right decision if I analyze it on a spreadsheet and fucking correlated this and that and that. But the reality is I can then move on to the next thing. So for a classic example, I haven't seen my mother in about 18 months. She lives in New Zealand. So obviously COVID, there's been no travel in New Zealand. Have had a block on entering that country for a long time. And on April the 19th, they've just released here in Australia that travel can happen. There's a bubble. So she books the first flight out on the day on the 19th. And literally 10 minutes after she messages me with that, I'm on Airbnb and I'm like, bang, bang, bang. Within 5 minutes, I'd already booked some accommodation. Okay. Already booked it. And she's, oh my God, how did you did that so fast? And I'm like, yeah, because I don't look at 30 different places. I don't analyze. I look and I go, am I happy and very satisfied with paying X for this? Yes, tick the box, pay it. Let's move on. Now I don't need to think about accommodation. Now, I bet you if I went back in there today, I could probably find a place that I might be able to save a couple $100 here and there. But the mental capacity and the time energy required to do that is just like, and so many people live through this ethos of, I need to analyze so many different options. And my wife's one of them. Like literally, I said to her, yeah, I've already booked the accommodation. Where my wife, but to her detriment, she always finds amazing places, but she spends a lot of time looking at it and then analyzing. And then she gets distorted by, oh my God, now there's too many cool options. I don't know which one, right? Where I'd look at the first one and I'd go, that's really cool. Is there any other one? Yeah, that's cool. Okay, well, I like this one more. Let's not even look at anything else that you might think you could get, right? Yeah. So the ability to make decisions quicker to what you just echoed there was following your intuition. Because man, 9 times out of 10, I would have to say that your intuition is right. Your gut feel is right. If you actually look at go through the last 3 months of where you've made decisions, the times in which you've followed your intuition versus stopped, analyzed, overanalyzed, and then went back to the original decision. Well, like we went and bought a nursing chair, right, for my wife, for obviously a new baby. And we went to one shop first. I went to the Lazy Boy shop first. And I walk in, 2 minutes, I'm like, that's the chair. That's a great chair. That'll be a great chair. So, I don't know. I need to have a look at some others. I'm like, okay, you're going to be sitting on it a lot more. So let's do that. We went to like 6 other shops. And I said to her at the second shop, I said, hey, I just want to put it out there. I reckon we're going to end up at that first shop and we're going to buy that fucking chair. Yep. Guess what we did? We went back to that first shop. We bought that chair, so, but sometimes again, and I'm not trying to sit here on a perch saying always take the first decision, but there'll be a lot more times than not where you should just take that first decision.
That's right. Yeah. I love that, man. Awesome story. And yeah, there's so many times that, it's there and it's about training yourself, right? To actually hear it as well. Like a lot of the time we can get stuck in our thoughts and stuff like that. Yeah. And what are we doing? And it's about, I guess, having that awareness, right? Is what I'll say to people, that when it comes and like, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a thought, it could be different things. So you just got to be aware of what it is and then go from there. So that's really awesome. I love that. And then that way, yeah, like Richard Branson says, make decisions, quickly and change them slowly, right? And even if you do make the odd bad decision, it's realizing what that is, and then you can change it quickly again, right? So that's the key thing.
And to Richard Branson, while you mention him, is his way of deciding is he looks at the risk to reward. He looks at what's the worst case scenario. When he started Virgin Airlines, he made a deal with Boeing that he could take all the planes back if it didn't work out, right? So he minimized his downside to maximize the upside. And that's like, I'm like, well, if I book this accommodation as the example, it cost me a couple of grand. I'll put her in a nicer place, right? Now, the worst case scenario is I might have been able to save $500, $600, maybe $1,000 on another place, but I'm like, that's not even worth like fighting over. Do you know what I mean? It's like a lot of people, when they actually step out of their decision making and look at it for what it actually is and not everything else that you're adding to it, you'll realize that you're fighting over pennies most of the time. It's the old crying over spilt milk type scenario. It's like, why are we even debating this? And a lot of the time it's just because your ego is so attached to it that it wants to be right. It baffles me.
Yeah, so true. And a lot of it, on top of that as well, comes down to the beliefs, right? Because we can have beliefs, and like, let's just say you've got some money beliefs about how much things should cost or something like that, right? And you're like, oh, this person's saying it's $100, but I normally pay $50 for this. And realistically, $50 to $100, $50 is not much money, right? In the grand scheme of things, right? But some people are like, I shouldn't pay for that. And they waste all this time and energy trying to work out different things when, what's the cost of that decision, right? It's going to make them down the line.
Yeah. Well. And that's what it is. No one puts price on time. No one puts price on time. So I wrote a book called Right Now, and it's called Right Now, Why Not You and Why Not Now? And the whole purpose is about living life on your terms, and how do you actually design a life that is worth living? Because people don't put intention into designing their life. Like, there's not a lot in my life that isn't intentional that I've placed there for a specific reason or purpose, right? But your ability to where I was going with that is that the concept of time. I talk about in there's that movie, I think the movie might be called Time or something like that. Anyway, it's got Justin Timberlake in it. Can't remember the name of it, but it's a pretty cool movie. And the concept is everyone has a, it's a imprint in their arm, like a bracelet or something that has how many hours you've got left to live, right? And you go to work and you get paid in time. Right? You go to dinner and you buy it in time, and then time gets taken off your wrist, and you can see sort of how long you've got left. And it's a really good way of thinking in that concept of going, everything that you transact has a time cost, right? Time spending doing something is time that you're not going to be spending doing something else, right? So this whole thing again of being intentional and making sure that you're very aware that there is a ticking clock. It hopefully, in most cases, once people really grasp the gravity of that, and that's why when people leave a Tony Robbins event or a motivational event, because this ethos of you don't have much time left. You gotta do the things that you enjoy in life. When you're hearing that for like 60 minutes, an hour, 3 days, 4 days, you can't not help but feel a palpable shift within inside yourself, right? So the time cost is everything.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
I see this in small businesses right now. Is there's so many founders, and I did this too. I when I first started my first company, I did everything because I didn't know that I needed, or I didn't know that I should get other people to help me, right? So to my detriment, ended up being, one of my saving graces, like where I was doing the marketing, I was doing everything, I was doing the sales, I'd build the websites, like you name it, until such time that I had to start to leverage other people. But I built the company the wrong way. Essentially, I did it back upside down versus what I've done, with Klaxon now. Is from day one, it was, I need to remove myself from this business as fast as I possibly can. And not in a way that I want to leave the business. It's just the business needs to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. Because what's the purpose of starting a business? It's not to get yourself some cash flow every week to spend. Like, it's not to give yourself a job, right? It's to build something that can sustain itself, where you can leverage and take dividends and payments from something. That's what you call cash flow coming through, right? What do they call it? Passive income is the word I was looking for there. That's passive income, right? But now I see a lot of founders take on too much responsibility, right? Too much responsibility. And there's been a massive shift, and COVID's expedited this by 18 months, at least, maybe 2 years, that founders, in my personal view, and I've been sort of talking about this a lot of late, is that they need to start treating what you're doing like a business if you're actually wanting to build a business, or it's just going to be a side project for you, right? So you need to start looking at it and build out an organization, build out teams, build out team culture, right? Build out the resource and capability requirements. Where I think right now there's this movement around how easy it is to market, right? And do sales and get a landing page up, and there's your business, when really it's not a business, right? So entrepreneurs and founders are getting sucked into the doing of everything, where what you need to really be doing is you need to be if you are the visionary or the integrator in your company, you need to be the visionary if that's you, right? If you're the visionary, start acting like one, right? Richard Branson now, and I know I'm talking about the upper echelon here, and it didn't always start like this, but he moved into this pretty quickly, he starts companies now and he doesn't even work in them. He doesn't even get involved in them. That's the highest level of where I guess you get to when it comes to building companies, right? Other than just financially investing, and you don't do anything. You don't talk to the board. You don't talk to anyone. But it's because he hires and finds people. But then the argument for a lot of founders and people that I talk to when I put that narrative out there, it's like, yeah, but I don't have the cash flow to do that right now. Well, you're just thinking about it wrong, because you have equity in the company. Do you believe that your product or service, there's a vision behind it? Do you think that it's profitable and it can be a really good thing if it got out to the marketplace? And most people would say yes. And if they do, then it's like, well, find someone else who believes in it just as much as you do, give them 30, 40, 50% of equity, let them work within the company at a reduced margin so you can get this thing going. Do you know what I mean? So, because there's a lot of really smart people out there who are not entrepreneurial and don't want to start a company, but they will build your company like it's their company.
Yeah.
Right. I'll stop there, mate, because I could go on for fucking ever.
I love it, mate. That was awesome. Awesome.
I actually haven't done a podcast in a little while. Because I've taken the last couple of months off being a farm. I'm actually really enjoying having the conversation.
It's awesome, mate. Hey, that's the beautiful thing about podcasts, and what I envision for this year is, you never know where it's going to go, right? And such amazing stuff that you've been sharing with everybody. And yeah, it's you've got to understand where it is, where you want to go, right? That's the key thing. Is not just go, what's the long-term vision, like you said, and not everyone's, and there's different types of entrepreneurs as well, right? Like you said, the visionary, you need a visionary in the business. And if you're not a visionary, you got to find someone that's going to help you with that vision. And then, or become one, I guess, at the same time. And then you need people to, to be like the taskmasters, the people that actually ensure that everything's getting done in the business as well.
Yeah, you need people who love doing that. Like, I'm really good at starting things, and I'm really good at ideation. I'm really good at seeing gaps that other people can't see, right? I can build out a company. I can build out an organization. I know how to interview people. I've interviewed hundreds of people, but I'd rather teach someone how to interview people so they can go and interview people, right? It's the ultimate leverage. Like, and I think just to really circle back on and hammer that point home is, because it's mind altering for a lot of founders out there who are going through right now. They might be doing 20, 30, 40 grand a month in sales, right? But they might be paying themselves 50 grand a year, right? Which I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like success that most people would want. That's not why we get into business. We get in it for leverage and to be able to generate a lot more income, right? Is that, and I actually, funnily enough, I learned this when I was 16, when I walked into the joinery factory where I started my apprenticeship. The first day I walked into the factory and I looked across the factory and I seen a guy packing up his tools. I was like, oh, I said to my boss, I said, oh, what's he doing? He goes, oh, he's leaving. He's going to start his own joinery factory. I was like, oh, really? I said, where's he doing that? Oh, he's got a garage that he's just going to work out like a double garage. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. And we were the only joinery factory in the town, and we had all the contracts for the building and so forth. Like, it was that small that there really wasn't any more room for another one. But he said to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, one thing he was taught, he goes, you're better to be a part of something big than a whole of something small. And I was like, oof, okay. And I was like, yeah, that's some whatever. I was 16. I was like, oh, that sounds nice. But it wasn't until I realized the gravity of that. The gravity of that. Like, you'd be better off to have 1% of Facebook than 100% of what you've got. You know, you'd be better off to have 0.0000001% of Facebook, to be honest. But the point there being is you don't have to have full ownership over it. Okay. And this is going from solopreneur, maybe you got 1 to 2, 3 staff, less than 5. And you're sort of at that threshold where you're like, how do I break into the $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million a year type range? The first $1 million you can do quite comfortably, I believe. It's how do you go to the $10 million bracket? Like what changes need to happen there? And you need a complete makeover of how you look at what you're doing. You know, you need an absolute complete makeover of how you look at what you're doing, because you now need to think like a business owner and not someone just trying to get stuff done. Because that's what happens, man. We get clouded with so much busyness because there's so much to do. There's so much to do. You know?
Definitely.
And this comes back again to mentors and advisors and making sure you got the right people to help you and just give you the fast track process. But I think there's just such an appetite or potential appetite for really good skilled people. Like, for an example, if someone thinks that they're a real gun shit hot speaker, right? They're an amazing speaker. They get on stage and they just wow the audience and they can sell from stage and, you know, they're great, but they suck at follow-up. They're not great at sales. They don't understand marketing. They don't know how to hire someone. You are the perfect candidate to go and partner with an entrepreneur who wants to build a business, someone who wants to build a business and not necessarily be the front of stage, right? You think Tony Robbins builds his companies? No. He doesn't need to now. Or any very, very early on, you know, there's people behind the scenes. That's right. So Tony's happy to take 60% of Tony Enterprises, right, and pony up 40% to other shareholders and other investors, etc., and other key stakeholders in the team.
Yeah, and he's been able to build it out.
It's leverage, man. You'll get there way faster.
Definitely.
Imagine having 1 or 2 other people that are as excited about growing this thing as you. I mean, that's the ultimate.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's how you build momentum, right, as well, is you're wanting as many people as you can, right? Obviously, you know, your partner or whatever you want on the same board. But when you start talking about people in the business, whether they're the, you know, the co-founders, the investors that are driving it, and then, you know, aim to breed entrepreneurial people as well within your business, right? Because not everyone wants to be the entrepreneur. Like, you know, you're saying everyone's got different things, but you want them to think strategically and creatively as well to find those people to help you grow it as well.
Absolutely. And give them an opportunity to have some part of the upside, right? It's literally, it's changing of the guard of you no longer have to own 100%. And unless you've got a cash cow of a business, you're probably stifling your growth if you are the only person who retains 100% of shareholdings. Yeah. Like, or you have to be the best, amazing person that you got people who just love everything that you're doing and they buy into it. Like, there's nothing more powerful than skin in the game.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, that's similar how I work at an advisory level now. It's like, I know years ago I was in the coaching space and I run coaching programs and mentoring programs and so forth, group training and one-on-one, all of that sort of stuff. But I realized that imagine if I had investment in the game and upside in the game even more. And it's not to say I was not doing any work or not helping to the capacity I could, but I'm telling you, there's a visceral difference between having skin in the game. You know, so I work with companies now. I only partner with a handful of companies that I know I can really add massive value to and grow and scale not only the company, but grow and scale the founder, because that's the most important part. The founder needs to be grown and scaled themselves in alignment with the business, right? And I get to have parts of the upside for that, you know, whether that's retaining shareholdings, ownership of the company, etc. Yeah. And it's a paradigm shift for people. It's a paradigm shift for business owners. Like, think about it from a Shark Tank perspective, right? If you went on Shark Tank, I would literally want to go on Shark Tank if I knew that these guys, you know, could really help the business and open doors, right? Which they should be able to, and I actually know they can. I know them, some of them, but it's the ability. I'd go up and go, I'm giving away 49% of my company for $1. Like, would you not give away half of your company to the people who could put you on a fast track of probably 10 years, probably to a point where you never could have got it to by yourself? You know, if you're talking American Shark Tank, just tapping into Mark Cuban's ability, you know, and Damon John, and I mean, it's just mind blowing, because I think what it is there's this sort of, again, I say changing the guard, this transition slowly starting to happen, is where founders and entrepreneur founders are starting to realize that, yeah, I can't do all of this by myself. Other than paying a coach, you know, what options can I do? You know, raise some capital, get an investor in potentially. Better to get a smart investor in who can actually give you advice and open doors and so forth as well, you know?
Yeah, definitely, mate. So many awesome points. And you're right. It is a mindset shift for people, because, you know, it's like that golden goose thing, right? We like to try and keep everything and everything like that, but you need to invest things. You don't just want to put money in the bank, because you get small amounts of interest, especially nowadays with COVID situation. There's no money, right? It's like, how can we make the money work for us? Invested in a business, invested in ourselves, invested in something else, get investors in, right? To then help that to multiply, to grow in different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love it, mate. So if I just want to touch on, like, obviously you've won these massive awards, right? Which is amazing. And, you know, it proves your results, right? So, you know, 2020 Australian Financial Review Fast Starter, 2019 Deloitte Fast 50, right? They're big awards. So, you know, amazing, awesome achievements. Congrats, mate. So if you know, obviously that's a very big for our branding as well, right? Like, your brand gets elevated, you know, massively when you get these awards as well. Yep. So, you know, for the people that are watching and listening, like, if we're wanting to get involved, you know, in getting these awards or get involved in them, like, what's involved, I guess, in sort of putting ourselves in, you know, in there?
Well, first of all, build a company that's warranted to have exponential fast growth, and that's the first thing, right? Do the work. And then submit your financials and tax details to these companies so they can verify it, and boom. Like, but I mean, there's probably a better conversation to have around awards itself, right? And leverage and what that looks like. Because right now I'm seeing, and this is sort of a warning to people out there too, I think, is some awards are really valid. You know, like the AFR Fast Starter, Deloitte Fast 50, you can't fudge that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to submit documentation to prove earnings, right? Now, something like you're a top 20 coaches in the world judged by Yahoo Finance, I can tell you right now, that's because people have emailed you and said you could pay $2,000 and we're going to put you in this because we've picked Ty Lopez and a couple of other people that, you know, have notoriety. And of course, I mean, if you're in the top 20 coaches in the world, I mean, that sounds pretty cool. But what will end up happening is people will quickly find out, because if you think you're the only person being emailed about that opportunity to be on there, you're bloody kidding yourself. And you got to look at what the outcome of that might look like in 6 months, 12 months. If you're buying your way to the top, it just seems a bit fucking like it's unauthentic to me. So I say that as a bit of a frame, because there'll be some listeners right now listening to this going, oh yeah, I'm considering doing it. Is it a worthwhile investment? In my view, no. It might be in the interim, like you might be able to, you know, pull the wool over a few people's eyes in that aspect to start with, but long term it'll end up hurting your brand. If you pay $2,000 and all of a sudden you've got this award, it's like, you know, I believe an award is judged by when it has to go through multiple layers of judging, you know, where you're up against, you know, reputable other companies as well. Some awards you can submit for, some you get asked to submit for. So that's a long-winded example of, look, if you want to build your brand and use that as notoriety, which it, you know, obviously it certainly is, build the company that warrants that, you know?
Yeah.
Don't try and get the award before you're due. Like here's how I'd look at it. If you're not comfortable standing up on stage in front of 10,000 people, and I say to you, do you believe that you're a top 20 or you're a top 10 this? Like, do you think you truly, really deserve this out of everything in the world? And I know I'm being critical here, but if you don't believe that it's what you've actually done has warranted that, then I probably wouldn't be trying to put your hat in the basket.
Yeah.
I say, again, I run everything through filters, right? And one of my filters when I was in the information product space and helping others create information products, I was like, if you're not happy to jump on Oprah Winfrey's couch, jump up and down and say, this is the best product in the marketplace, I'll sit next to anyone else in the marketplace who has a similar product and I'll be proud of it. And then don't put it to market.
Yeah.
Don't put it you need to set yourself some standards. If you don't think this is at least a 5-star review on Amazon, don't fucking put it out there.
Yeah.
So
true. And a lot of people, you got to think strategically in the future, right? About what are my actions and what are the potential ramifications, like you said, right? Of how it's coming back. So really awesome about, how to, be strategic on how you build your brand, because you don't want it to come and bite you later, because once a brand is tarnished, and especially if it's a personal brand as well, then it's challenging to come back.
Look at Instagram. Perfect example. When there's companies who came out and learned how to hack and you can buy followers, dude, there was people who went from like 5,000 to 500,000 followers in a week. I'm like, that is bullshit. And then it looks good at the start though. And then all of a sudden Instagram come and do the cull of fake accounts. Oh, you're back down to 6,000. What happened there? Like people didn't just decide to unfollow you. So it's short-term thinking, right? It's short-term thinking, and you've got to look at how will this potentially impact in 6 months, 12 months. How will this come back and potentially bite you, especially in the world we live in now? It's ridiculous. Yeah. People go back 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, and you'll be tarnished for something you did. It's like unbelievable.
Definitely, mate. Let's delve a little bit deeper into like what you're doing now, right, with Claxton. So there's many different types of growth channels, right, that we can do in our businesses and leverage on. And I know you focus on a lot of them, and we could probably talk maybe a little bit about the lesser known ones as well, right? Because that's where I guess, there's going to be a lot of knowledge there for everyone there. So, something called Omnichannel digital growth, right? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and strategies and things like that about what the difference is with that. Yeah.
Well, firstly, think omni-channel and omnipresent. Okay. What that simply means is that you're on multiple channels all of the time, right? And what we've found over the past, let's call it 2 years, the adoption of omni-channel, i.e. multiple platforms, has far superseded those who just work on a singular platform. Right. So an example, we had an e-commerce fashion brand come to us. They were doing about $100 grand a month. Just they were sort of pushing up to about $100 grand a month. They couldn't crack through that. Right. So they were at their limitations. And at that time, they were just using Facebook and lightly Instagram, but they were using it pretty lightly. Right. So what we ended up doing was we introduced Google search, Google shopping. We introduced Snapchat, Pinterest. What else did we use in there? Yeah, Snapchat, Pinterest. I don't believe we used TikTok yet. But anyway, we implemented multiple channels, and mate, they're doing now like 1.5 to 1.6 million a month, right? Massive increase. Because you can only spend so much in a certain space as well until you start to dilute that. So the ability to be able to, and you just got to look at user behavior, right? Look at your own behavior. It's always a good predicate of how we can make a lot of decisions. It's even though you don't move, like even though your thumb moves bloody a centimeter, right? Your brain goes into a new world when you enter a new app. It's crazy to think that. But when you're in Facebook, you're thinking differently. When you're in TikTok, you're thinking differently. Whether you know it or not, just subconsciously you are. You're looking at things differently. Your expectations are different. But all of a sudden, you go from Facebook, and then you're in Snapchat, then you're in Google, and then you go to someone's website, and then next minute there's ads everywhere in every platform for you, right? So that's that ability to be able to be omnipresent. So in one night, someone could literally see a Facebook ad or an Instagram swipe up. They swipe up, they go to your website. Oh, yeah, cool. I'm not really ready yet. Then they go back to Facebook. There's another advertisement. Then they go, oh, what's happening in Snapchat? Jump into Snapchat. Oh, sheesh. I got ads in Snapchat. This brand must be huge, right? This must be a big brand. They're everywhere. They decide to go and book some accommodation for their mum. So they go to Google. Oh, what? They're here on Google as well. Google Shopping, they're popping up. This is crazy. I might have to check it out. Bang, check it out and buy something. It happens so frequent. So that the whole ability to be omnipresent is becoming even more and more important. We're formally going to be launching, but we've been using it for some time. So we operate social, right, which is all your social channels: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, etc. Then we have search, which again is your Google Shopping, Google Search, etc. And then we've got programmatic, right, which is programmatic advertising, which is more above the line type app media buying, all your online apps, television advertising, digital display advertising, billboard advertising digitally, etc. Spotify, anywhere else that you can really run ads through the programmatic channel. And then deep data analytics, that's really the source that brings it all together. It's like, how do we take the information and data that we're collecting on all of these channels, bring it in together, put it in the pot, stir it up, and what's the outcome of that look like? And that's where you find your secret sauce. That's how you're able to go from $100,000 a month to $1.6 million in sales.
Yeah, I love that, mate.
And it takes intention, man. It takes time. It takes effort. And guess what? It also takes. It takes money, a big investment of money. And so many businesses want to scale, but they're like, I don't want to invest too much money. I want to spend $1,000 on ads. It's like, fuck, you're not gonna do anything with $1,000 in ads. Yeah. You're just not, and if you think you can get a marketing team to execute this plan for like a couple of grand a month, you're kidding yourself. But that's what a lot of the industry is sort of putting out there right now, because there's this shift where people think that they can just run other people's ads for them instead of knowing how to do it for themselves. I'll just run it for someone else and get paid, right? So we're sort of living in that phase at the moment. I think, again, back to business owners who want to scale. And I mean, your show's called the Business Growth Show, right? So people who want to grow their business need to take their marketing and sales departments very, very seriously. And you need to outlay capital for that. You need to run financial models. You need to look at what scale looks like. When a client comes to us and, we say to them, what sort of revenues do you want to, what are you currently doing monthly revenues? Where do you want to move towards? And they say a number. Let's say they throw out, I want to do $500,000 a month in sales. I was like, cool. Okay. Once we work some numbers and some rough economics on, it's like, cool, you're going to have to spend about $20,000 a month in ads. What? 20 grand? Whoa. Like, it's a mindset shift, right? So it's, this is the whole point of why I say, I don't just grow businesses, I grow the founder, because without growing the founder, man, you're just going to be pushing shit uphill.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. So true. And like you said before, every level is different, right, in a business with how much you make. And it's the same thing with the mindset that's linked to that. But if you think about it, like the relationship, $20,000 versus $500,000 is not much, right? Like, you know what I mean? When you do the comparison.
Right. And I just want to put that out there. That is not me saying that is an exact formulation of 20 grand is going to get you 500. You might be able to get it off 10. You might actually have to spend 100, right? But the point there really is, and I know you picked it up, but I just want to echo this for anyone listening. And because a lot of people, this is one of the biggest questions that we get, right? Is how much is it going to cost? So, well, how much is what going to cost for what to start with, right? Oh, well, if I want to get $500,000 a month, how much will it cost me in ad spend? I've got no idea. Like, absolutely no idea. We've got some benchmarks potentially, but that could be totally inaccurate, because you got to look, what's your brand look like? What brand recognition do you have? What's your products and services? What do they actually look like? What sentiments do they have in the industry? What's your competition? Do you know your customer avatar properly? Do you have a set strategy that isn't just advertising based? It's like, what's your follow-up for this? What's your CRM build process? What's this look like in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? When are you going to phase in new channels? There's just so much unknown, right, in it. And you don't know a lot of the time until you get there and test it. When I first started Facebook advertising in 2007, so I was an early adopter, actually about 2008. There was no tracking pixels. The metrics were really hard. I just knew that I'd be spending a couple of grand a day on advertising. I just knew I was getting more sales of our workout programs, that I had more money coming into the bank than what was going out. That was my tracking. Right? It wasn't that great, but I was just lucky that was the scenario. I mean, you could advertise anything in Facebook back in 2008. So times have changed though. There's a couple of million businesses here in Australia who are actively advertising, and the competition's getting more fierce. You got to wade through the noise a lot more. Right, which again comes back to the brand is really starting to become really important. No longer can you just have a random sales page, send them to a ClickFunnels page, and here's a quick video and they'll buy your product. It's just not as easy as that anymore. The businesses that'll win are the ones that have a good, strong brand and a good, strong follow-up and a good, strong business model. I see that time and time again. We get a lot of coaches as well. We work with small business all the way through to enterprise, billion-dollar companies. And a lot of the time we say no to a lot of coaches because it's like, look, I get it. I know you're trying to get some traction here, but what we implement is not going to work for you right now because you can't afford it. Like your cash, you need to get on the grind and start making calls just to get some cash flow so you can invest back into a set marketing strategy. Because right now, no one knows you. You got no brand. You've coached 3 people, right? It's a hard slog from there. And look, I know that because I was in that space at one time, but I also know how much money I spent to invest in my brand and recognition so that it wasn't hard for me to get clients. They ended up coming to me, but there was a prerequisite to that where I spent a lot of money, Yeah. Before opening our agency, I'd spend over $2 million personally in advertising. Just on Facebook, and that was throughout our brands and multiple brands because you've got to invest. If you're not investing, someone else is going to come and invest more and just push you out the way. It's just going to happen, especially living in the world now of VC angel investing is really becoming a big thing right now. It's becoming a lot more mainstream, let's call it, right? Where there's a lot of people out there with money who are willing to invest in your idea. They're willing to take a piece of the pie for your idea. As long as they back the horse and go, okay, we believe you that you can do that.
Yeah, very true. And I think that it's a mindset shift in the same way that it's not how much is it going to cost me, is it how much is it going to make me, right? That's the way you got to think about it as well.
Yeah.
With these guys. And this is where, like you said, the powers of coaches and mentors, right? Where, investing in ourselves, whether it's our mindset, that's intangible, but we know that if we get better beliefs and we fix our mindset, we're naturally going to be able to attract more things, right, to us and everything like that. But then also it's, investing in all the business skills and strategies that, that you're mentioning as well, right? Because that money there, whether they're, it's just for the services or whether they're invested, either one is going to help you, right, to get that there quicker instead of taking a lot longer.
Well, you're happy to go and some people are happy to go and spend 40 grand on university education with a guarantee of the only thing you got at the end of it is debt, right? And you have to afford to live throughout that time. So there's that. If that doesn't change your way of looking at invest in your business, pay a top level advisor 40 grand, if you can get someone for that, and soak up as much as you can from that and the experience, and you get to implement it and take action on a daily basis. You should make your money back very, very, very quickly, right? You're happy to go and spend $4, $5, $6, $7, $800,000 on a house that you pay off over 30 years. Why not go get a business loan and back yourself? put 20, 30, 40, 50 grand in the business bank account, sit down, work out a strategy on how to build your business, and deploy the cash effectively. You know, like there's ways to do it and I just want to make sure I'm not sounding like a bit of a prick, because it's not easy to build a business. I'll put it out there like that, right? It's very hard, but if you're hungry enough and dedicated enough, there's ways on how you can think about it differently, is what I'm really trying to say here. And one way may not work for you, but it may work for someone else, right? You just got to find what your risk tolerance level is. But I look at it like this and go, because I've come across a lot of business owners, and one of the questions I ask them, like, what are you paying yourself right now? I'm drawing about 50, 60 grand a year. I'm like, fuck, mate. Like, I get it though. I get it what it is at that stage, but I'm like, so how committed are you to growing this business? Well, I'm really committed. It was like what though? Like, are you going to do this, and this? You need to have a plan, right? And if you're not going to put everything all on the line to execute that plan, you'd be better off going to get a job. Shit, I'll hire you and give you more than that. You know what I mean? Like you have to, don't take the opportunity that we have available to us, which is the ease of application of starting a business. Anyone can right now go, you know what, I'm starting a business. Go and get a PTY LTD, pay a couple $100 with ASICs, and here in Australia, and you've got a company. Now you're an entrepreneur. It's like, don't put yourself under that much risk, or pressure if you're not going to commit yourself fully. Because you shouldn't be the lowest paid person in your business. Now, there's a time period where you will be and you will have to be, because you'll have to make those decisions. Because again, I get it. You might not have the cash flow. But if your question is ever, I don't have enough cash to grow, you need to be asking yourself, one, is there even a probability of me making a certain amount of cash flow over the next 30, 60 days that could warrant that? Right? If I ever wanted to find cash flow to grow in our fitness company, I'd just put a product out there and, give it a discount, and we'd make, 60, 70 grand by sending an email, right? That was easy, but most people can't do that. So you got to look at it and go, okay, is there a chance of me getting an influx of cash flow right now into the business? What could you pre-sell right now? What could you sell right now for future delivery that could give you the cash flow to hire your first, admin, or your first operations manager, or whatever that role is, your first salesperson that can do the sales, and now you get time to go focus on other things, right? And if the answer is no, I won't, there's nothing I could sell. It's like, your only options are go to the bank, get a loan, get a low interest loan. Don't go, even if it's a higher interest rate, it's like, back yourself going, well, what is that going to actually cost me? And what's the rate of return that I could actually get on this money? Option one is that. Two is go to your network and say, hey, I've got a great opportunity. I'm looking to, take on a couple of investors, looking for amounts of blah, 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 who would be interested. Let's chat. You'll be surprised. You might get a couple of people go, yeah, man, I'm happy to put in 50K for 30%. It's a big percentage that you might have to give up for that. But in the same token, it's like, could you get there without it? And if you can't, you got to take the best of the worst options. This whole concept of, never give up equity, I hear it a lot. And I've been looking at it from both sides as well, because I'm like, yeah, if you don't have to give up equity, don't. Right? Don't. But in the same token, majority of businesses will have to, because you don't have cash flow with 80, 90% margins. Most service-based businesses, especially, working off maybe a 20, 30% net margin at best. I mean, there's not a lot of money to be moving around in there. Do you know what I mean? And a safe of a couple of $100,000 in a bank account that could give you a cash runway, cash flow for the next 12 months. It'll take your mindset off being pressured around, oh my God, I've got to pay payroll, or how am I going to pay this bill? Oh, I can't pay my mentor this month because I didn't have this. It's like, we need to start thinking differently. Cash flow is king. If you've got cash, you can make better decisions.
Love that. Yeah, very true. And yeah, work out your options, guys. Like, like you said, don't just find the first thing, look at all your options, look at least 3 things. Brett's mentioned a few different options, right? Go to the bank, see if you can get money. Ask people, will they invest money? Get maybe a coach or a mentor that, he's got some skin in the game, right? They invest and get a piece of what you're doing and can help grow the business or whatever it is, right? A business like that. Find different ways. There's always ways, right, to do things. You just got to ask the right questions or be around the right people is probably another one as well, right? Because we don't know everything ourselves, but being coached and mentored by good people or having good circles of smart people, we can ask that question and then we can work out who do we need to speak to get the best answer as well.
Absolutely.
Love it, mate. So just wrapping it up, I guess, what one key piece of advice would you give? I know it's a hard one because you've given so much amazing, value here today to all the entrepreneurs listening.
I'll keep it with the theme of what I've been talking about. If I had to share one thing, is ask yourself this question. Do you really want to be in the business that you're in right now? Do you really want to be growing this thing that you started growing a year ago because you felt amazing about it, and now it's just hard work and you don't want it, you've lost the passion, you're just no longer interested? Because that's a really awakening question, because again, COVID helped actually a lot of people. I said it was my biggest thing around that time was it was the ultimate reset for a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, because there's a lot of people who are in business who shouldn't be in business, didn't want to be actually in business. And this was the ability for them to get out of jail free card, so to speak, because we live in a country here. I know definitely in Australia, it's like, if you start it, you got to finish it. I stayed at my apprenticeship for 4 years because I literally went home and I was crying to my mum because my boss was an absolute asshole. One of them was. That was back in the day of, he would get sued right now if he did anything that he did back then, in this day and age. I mean, it'd be hilarious. But that was back in the hard knocks days. And I'd go home and cry. I said, I want to stop. I want to leave this. I want to find something else. And she's like, stick with it. And again, that was the best advice she had. It was like, stick with it. It'll always be something you can fall back on if you ever need to, right? Get your ticket, get the certificate. Man, I will never build another fucking kitchen or cabinet or window or door or house ever again, right? However, that was the advice I was given, and that's how I played it. But for me, it's there's this concept again of, imagine there's a time piece on your arm of how many hours you have left to live. Do you want to spend a large fraction of those, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, building something that now has changed? And it's okay if your mind's changed on it. As long as you're not building a new bloody business every month, like a couple of guys I know, they're just jumping from one thing to another. They just need an intervention to sit down and go, hey man, let's get clear on this for a minute, right? But if you've been slogging at this and it's just not working, maybe it is time for you to hang up the boots and find something else. Or maybe it's time to be serious about it and go, oh, I need help. I'm putting up my hand. I can't do this by myself. Is someone interested in partnering with me and taking a percentage of the company to help me grow it? So there was a lot there for one piece of advice, but it's ask yourself that question. Are you really in the thing that you should be and want to be?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to those who are sitting there going, no, I don't want this. This is not what I want. But I'm also not sorry, because you now owe it to yourself to fucking make the decision that's best for you and your family.
Yeah. I love that, mate. So many awesome points there, and completely agree with that. So yeah, we connected through our networks where you're always happy to help. Your unique skills and experience speak for themselves, which is why you're getting many accolades for them, and getting, you do things differently, which is awesome. You think differently and you ensure everybody gets results, right? Which is very important in these days, right? That's what business is about, and helping results for ourselves and our prospects and clients and everybody else in the ecosystem. And yeah, you're just an awesome guy as well. And I'm sure you continue to help business owners grow and scale their business. I'm very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to working with you in the future as well, Brett.
I appreciate it. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
You're all, mate. And so from, we've got so much wisdom and everything else here today. So how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Mate, probably the best place is just look up on the socials, Instagram @Brett Campbell Official. You can just put my name, Brett Campbell, into Facebook. You should find me. You can go brettcampbell.com.au. will probably take you to everything anyway. And feel free to reach out, slide into my DMs, and happy to have a little bit of a gas bag.
Love it, mate. Definitely check Brett out. He's a machine in many words. But, so thank you, everyone, for watching, listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you. Or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. Have a great day.